welcome to another edition, a live edition of Politics Done Right from Netroots Nation 2022. Look who I found. I'm honored to be Mark Thompson.
Hey, man.
Man, talk to me. Before that, introduce yourself to my audience.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to Netroots Nation, the place where we've been able to come together for a number of years. The largest convention of progressives in the country, and the first time we've been able to do it since COVID and do it in person. My name is Reverend Mark Thompson. I'm the host of Make It Plain, where you can get wherever you get your podcast. Many of you may remember when Make It Plain was on SiriusXM, but we're a podcast. In fact, if I had known, the podcast is so big.
Yes,
I mean, it's such a big thing.
It's a big industry now.
If I had known, I would have left satellite years earlier.
Right.
As a matter of fact, you know, my talk show was the first talk show ever on satellite radio. And people told me, don't do it, it's crazy. Nobody's going to. And that was a good call. But I didn't make a good call on podcasts. I didn't get in front of that one. I just didn't see it. Didn't see it coming.
Well, you know, the truth of the matter is, as a couple of people have already told me, remember, if you do a podcast and you do videos, you have the entire market, right? Because what happens is people want to listen to you, and every so often they want to see you.
They want to see you. That's right.
You know,
that's right.
So you give them both worlds.
Yeah, right. So no, it's fun. I'm enjoying it. But man, it's good to see you, and thanks for having me on,
you, man. But tell me a little bit about your new show. Or your moved show.
Well, you know, as I said, and we're still doing a daily show.
Right.
And as usual, we talk about all the political issues of the day, all the things that are urgent, and all where it intersects issues of race and culture and sexuality and gender. And man, look, you know, to have foreseen the impact of Donald Trump.
Right.
To take this whole thing backwards. I mean, we are going in reverse.
Right.
And but each day it gets worse. I mean, it never stops. He's the gift that keeps on giving in terms of content and analysis and what's really taking place around here and what people need to be aware of and be mindful of and be careful about. You know what I mean?
Yes. Now, let me ask you something, because I personally feel that Donald Trump makes a good scapegoat, right? I think there are powers behind Donald Trump that is beneficial to some folk that are really silent. It's beneficial to move us back. It's beneficial to have us fighting each other. It's beneficial to create this crazy thing that we deal with so that otherwise some in power can. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, no, of course. I mean, what he's doing does not just benefit him as an individual.
Right.
But I think we've seen the regression or the degression of the right wing of the Republican Party. And where did it really begin? It really came in earnest in recent history with Reagan.
Thank you.
Now,
I mentioned that in my book. There you go.
Let's look at it. Look at Trump, you look at Reagan.
Right.
Two celebrities, bad hairstyles, not really bright. I mean, Reagan was just read scripts.
Exactly.
And he was pretty bad. But it's interesting, those who were Reagan acolytes would say that Trump is crazy and they're not into that. But he's just the next, he's progressive.
Right.
And let me tell you something, man, I haven't forgotten W. People forgotten about W and his father because Trump is so bad.
Right.
But they were pretty god awful too.
Yeah.
So it's no different. The only real distinction is Trump is louder. He's less discreet in terms of the loudness of his ignorance.
Right.
And he is narcissistic. He's got some other issues, obviously.
Some daddy issues as well.
He's got a lot of issues.
You know.
He got a lot of issues, and probably some mental illness and some other kind of illnesses.
Yeah.
You know, if y'all go online, this is gonna sound crazy, but I love to talk about this because I think it's funny. There's one clinical theory about Trump is that he has untreated tertiary syphilis.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and that's what.
Yes.
Google it,
know
Google
that.
it, Google it, and then when you see, I don't know what that is. I don't know what
Well, you remember what they did in the what you call it product in the
yeah, but I don't.
Tuskegee?
Yeah, but I don't know the symptoms or the side effects of syphilis. But when you read, it's like, wait a minute, this dude is really kind of crazy.
Yeah.
In fact, I in 2020, I said to several of the presidential candidates, accuse them of having syphilis. They were like, oh, we can't do that. I said, but think about it. The only thing that got to Trump in 2016 was the little hands. Remember, he obsessed.
You remember that? Yes.
He couldn't get over it. And he kept promoting it every day, talking about it.
Look at these hands. Do they look little?
Real. So imagine if you say you have syphilis for the rest of the campaign, all you would have heard him say was, I don't have syphilis, I don't have syphilis. And he would look even crazy. But anyway, all jokes aside, we thought, man, the January 6th committee was hitting home runs.
Right.
I mean, just turning pages. Now there's a whole nother thing that doesn't even have to do with January 6th.
Yeah.
Bro, let me tell you something, man. We're not criminals or nothing.
Right.
But if somebody called us and said, hey, y'all, we packing up the White House, what you think we can take to sell or do something with? I mean,
We'd be in jail.
No, but think about what you would think of. You might think about paintings, China. Who would ever think about taking top secret nuclear information? Who do you or I know, or anybody in here know? I asked Marcos the same question, that we could sell or give nuclear information to. We don't know that. Now we know people buy some paintings and sell some China. We can go out here on the street in Pittsburgh and sell some hot China.
Yes.
But nuclear information, the only person who could do something with that is someone who is a professional spy.
Yes.
We wouldn't even know who to call. So that lets you know, and it also says something about the seriousness of it, because Garland didn't want to do that. Garland did not, he was loath to come after the guy. Everybody was thinking, well, let's prosecute him on January 6th. But if this guy is actually selling military intelligence
From
nuclear,
our own secret stuff. Yeah.
Dude, I mean, that's like what. Now Marcos is funny. He seems to think that Trump's not even that bright. He probably likes, he likes to flash it. Look, I got nuclear codes. He's probably too dumb to even figure out how to try to make money off of it. The stages of espionage began with useful idiot. That's the low level.
Right.
And that's what Malcolm Nance and others, we all kind of speculated he was.
Yeah.
But
I heard Malcolm say that. Yeah. But you know what is interesting, Mark? I mean, I think that you're right, first of all. I mean, or I think when Marcos says he's too dumb to think about that, but I think you're right in respect to, it's not about Trump. Trump knows what he has, but other people know what Trump has. And those other people would use his, what did you call him? The useful idiot. Useful idiot. Right. To actually promote those things, So I mean, I don't see any difference in that whatsoever. Now, tell me a little bit about what are your plans going forward. And now you have your new podcast now that you've left Sirius.
Right. Well, I'm doing what I've
seen you on a lot of programs, by the way. You've been all on all the good shows, really hitting it up.
Thank you, brother.
In fact, I think I saw you with Roland Martin giving him a hard time.
We have fun, but just doing what I've always done. Still very much involved in the activist work I do.
Right.
And a big fight now to see if we can get H.R. 40, the reparations bill, passed, get that out of Congress, and get the president to sign it. If Congress won't do it, to get the president to do it by executive order. Still dealing with this police violence.
Right.
In fact, I'm doing a workshop next week for several local organizations. It's interesting as we look at Roe. The issue of abortion rights is now back in the states. It's now a local issue. But ladies and gentlemen, the fact of the matter is, all of our issues, all of our politics is really local.
Exactly.
Because it is at the local level they decide to do the redistricting and the gerrymandering.
Right.
It's at the local level where they decide to determine what is taught and not taught in our schools. And it's at the local level, most important, my brother, Berto, where police are governed.
Yes.
There's no federal. So when I go into places, people honestly think, unfortunately, and this is, social media is good, but it's also bad.
Right.
People think that we're going to tweet an end to police violence. So what I do, I go in some of these local communities and say, no. You have to organize here. And we went to Akron. Jalen Walker shot 60 times by the police.
Right.
And, the community was torn because it's so small. Everybody knows the police chief.
Right.
Everybody knows these officers. But see, the fact of the matter is, if it were as small as it appears to be, that would never have happened.
Right.
We have to make our community smaller, get in the faces of some of these politicians, let some of these politicians who we may have known for years say, even black ones,
Right.
even black ones,
Right.
if you don't do something to help us reform the police department and establish civilian oversight, then you got to go too. So I'm still doing much of that work.
That is important work. In fact, I think it is time for us to take back command, to take command of police. We have to remember the genesis of police anyway.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
So this was a slave running thing, and they seem to continue that same behavior too often, including, and you mentioned including some of the POC ones, black ones, Latino ones.
That's right. That's
they
right.
sort of act like the police force too often, much harsher on people of color themselves. Now, anyway, what would you have liked me to ask you that I didn't?
Oh man. Well, first of all, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing fine. I mean, you know as well as I do, this is very hard work, but it's work that we believe in, work that we want to do, work that we want to make sure gets out there. So as long as what I try to tell people, Mark, is we have to, as progressives and as this band of brothers and sisters out here, we have to work together and realize that 1 + 1 is 5. In other words, you work alone, and that's what I try to build. I try to build relationships with everybody and say, hey, now that I know you have a podcast, Mark, I'm going to be promoting the holy hell out of your podcast. I want you to do the same for mine and the same for other, because what we have to do is the only way we get the message out is when they tune out of Politics Done Right, they tune into your Mark. What is
Make It Plain.
Make It Plain podcast.
Right.
I got to know that, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We got to know that Marcus has a new podcast that he's starting to do. We got to make it known.
That's right.
And I'm at KPFT, Pacifica Network, on air as well. And it's interesting because one of the things that we said we need to do to make sure other folks know about other programming is so that they stay with you. We don't want them just listening to you and then going to a Rush Limbaugh lookalike.
Yeah. And obviously too, we still have. Well, I mean, the good news is the Rush Limbaugh's
He's
gone.
no longer with us,
and so that kind of ends the era, I think, of the dominance of the airways that they once had, and that never should have happened in the first place.
Right.
But I think we can get that back, and I agree. We should all be listening to and sharing information.
Right.
But most importantly, and I know you do this, those of us who share information on all of these different shows and platforms, we have to be giving out information that empowers.
Exactly.
And information that assigns.
Right.
So that people are not just listening for the sake of listening.
Exactly.
We're not here just to try to be celebrities, but instead to be a source and a resource where people can go and get information and then go out and act.
I love that. I mean, that's the most important.
Not talk
statement.
radio, but do radio.
That's
what I say.
That's the most.
Do radio.
Brother, that's the most important statement. After they listen to you, they must feel that they can go out there and do something.
Thank
Mark,
you,
it's
brother.
been my pleasure.
It's an honor, brother. Good to see you, man. Congratulations to you. Folks, you all continue to check out Politics Done Right. Support my brother here. He's been in here and fight for a long time.
Thank you, my man.
Thank you, brother.
We'll talk.
All right.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number 1, subscribe to our channel. And number 2, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.